If you garden where winter feels endless, the wind cuts like a blade, and frost shows up uninvited, you already know the struggle. Most gardening advice is written for mild climates, long summers, and forgiving soil. But here on Soil Factor, we focus on the truth beneath our feet. And today, that truth is simple. Food can still grow where cold tries to kill it. Extreme cold doesn't mean gardening is impossible. It just means the rules change. Certain crops don't just tolerate freezing conditions, they depend on them. They use cold as a trigger to grow sweeter, tougher, and more resilient. These are what I call hardcore crops. Plants bred by nature and tradition to survive snow, frost, and frozen ground. This guide isn't theory. It's about crops you can actually grow, harvest, and rely on in cold regions, high altitudes, and short-growing seasons. Whether you're battling winter in northern climates or dealing with unpredictable cold snaps, these plants will keep your soil productive and your garden alive. Cold-hardy crops survive for one main reason. They evolved to protect their cells from freezing damage. Many produce natural sugars that act like antifreeze. Others grow close to the soil using the Earth's residual warmth. Some slow their growth so much that freezing temperatures barely affect them. What matters most is soil health. You see, living soil buffers temperature swings, drains excess moisture, and protects roots from freeze damage. On Soil Factor, we always come back to this. The soil decides survival, not the air temperature alone. Kale doesn't just survive frost, it improves because of it. After exposure to freezing temperatures, kale converts starches into sugars, making the leaves sweeter and less bitter. In many cold regions, kale can survive temperatures as low as -15 degrees Celsius or 5 degrees Fahrenheit and still bounce back. The key is planting early enough to establish strong roots before deep winter sets in. Once mature, kale can sit under snow for weeks, protected like it's under a blanket. Harvest outer leaves and leave the growing point intact, and the plant keeps producing. For extremely cold climates, curly varieties and Siberian kale really do outperform the others. If you want a crop that laughs at frost, kale is your first line of defense. Spinach is honestly one of the most underestimated cold-hardy crops out there. Properly established plants can survive temperatures well below freezing, especially when covered by snow or mulch. In fact, spinach often overwinters better than it grows in the summer heat. Cold slows spinach growth, but it sure doesn't kill it. Once daylight increases, even while temperatures stay low, spinach just explodes with fresh leaves. This makes it perfect for early spring harvests, when everything else is still asleep. Now, the trick here is dense planting and rich soil. You see, healthy spinach with strong root systems just shrugs off cold far better than those weak, nutrient-starved plants. Garlic really needs cold, you know. Without it, bulbs just don't form properly. When you plant garlic in late fall, it develops roots before the ground freezes, then lies dormant through winter. The cold, well, it actually triggers bulb formation in spring. Hardneck garlic varieties are especially suited for extreme cold. They tolerate freezing soil, heavy snow, and long winters a whole lot better than soft-neck types. Mulching heavily with straw or dry leaves is critical, not for warmth, but for temperature stability. Garlic, in fact, proves a powerful soil factor principle. Cold doesn't kill plants. Instability does. You know, carrots survive the cold by staying underground, where the temperatures are a whole lot more stable. As the frost hits, carrots actually convert starch into sugar, making them sweeter the colder it gets. In a lot of cold regions, carrots can be left in the ground well into winter and just harvested as you need them. The real secret here is loose, well-drained soil. Compacted soil, well, that traps moisture, which freezes and then damages the roots. A good, thick mulch layer keeps the soil from freezing solid, letting you harvest even during those midwinter thaws. Cold-grown carrots aren't just survivors, they're honestly superior in flavour. Cabbage has these thick, waxy leaves designed to reduce moisture loss and protect the inner layers. Some varieties can handle frost and even a bit of light snow without any damage. Once they're established, cabbage plants can tolerate temperatures near freezing for, extended periods. Savoy and winter cabbages perform especially well in cold climates. Their dense heads protect the growing core, while outer leaves, well, they sacrifice themselves to frost. Cabbage thrives when soil is rich and firm. Weak soil produces weak plants, and weak plants just don't survive winter stress. Leeks are among the toughest vegetables you can grow. They don't mind frost, snow, or those icy winds. In fact, leeks often stay in the ground all winter and are harvested when nothing else is available. Their long stems and deep roots protect the growing point underground, while the leaves tolerate freezing above. Cold also improves leek flavour, reducing sharpness and increasing sweetness. For extreme cold regions, trench planting and mulching make leeks almost unstoppable. You know, parsnips really need a good cold snap to reach their peak flavour. Just like carrots, they turn that starch into sugar after they've been kissed by frost. Some gardeners, well, they don't even bother harvesting parsnips until spring, pulling them out once the soil has thawed after a long winter. Parsnips grow pretty deep, which makes them tough against surface freezing. As long as your soil drains well and isn't all waterlogged, parsnips will handle even the most extreme cold without much fuss. Honestly, if you're after a root crop that just stores itself right in the ground all winter long, parsnips are hard to beat. Gardening through extreme cold gets a whole lot easier, I think, when you start adding perennials into the mix. Plants like rhubarb, chives, sorrel and walking onions. They die back completely in winter, but then come back even stronger once the temperatures start to rise again. These plants store energy underground, protected by soil insulation. Over time, they adapt to your specific climate, becoming more resilient each season. Healthy soil turns perennials into long-term food security, even in brutal climates. Cold hardy crops only reach their full potential in living soil. Organic matter, microbial activity and proper structure create a thermal buffer that protects roots. Mulch isn't optional, it's essential. In extreme cold areas, raised beds can freeze faster than ground-level beds, while sun-facing slopes and wind protection dramatically improve survival rates. Here on Soil Factor, we don't fight nature, we work with it. Cold is part of the system, not the enemy. Extreme cold doesn't end gardening. It filters out weak strategies. The crops in this guide aren't just survivors. They're proof that food production is possible where most people give up. When you choose the right plants, build living soil, and respect the role of cold, your garden becomes resilient instead of fragile. That's the Soil Factor way. If this guide helped you rethink what's possible in cold climates, subscribe to the Soil Factor YouTube channel, share this with a fellow gardener, and keep growing food where others say it can't be done.